Hello, welcome to the EngageTech YouTube channel. My name's Amelia Loye and you're watching the EngageTech webinar series. Today we're going to see a solution called Redman Solutions, and I've got with me Fiona Cullen. Hello Fiona, welcome, and Greg Laborde. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Hi.
Thanks, Amelia.
So Fiona's going to start off with giving us a bit of an overview of Redman Solutions and the product and how it's being used. And then Greg is going to give us a short demonstration. And after that, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about the regular questions I ask in this series about how the product fits on the spectrum and meets some of the typical needs of government clients. Thanks. We'll start off with you now, Fiona. Thanks so much. Let's hear what you guys have been up to.
Cool. So Redman Solutions as a company, we're a people-first consulting and technology company. We are dedicated to local government. We've been in business for over 15 years, and our number one focus is local government, and the solutions that we have created for ourselves or that we source are always done in partnership with our local government clients. And we just love working with this sector because we get to obviously help the people that are impacting communities directly. So it's I love my job and I love this company. So it's a delight to introduce us to you and to your viewers. So in the, I guess, local government technology space, these are the spaces that we play in. So a lot of people, so we're in Australia and New Zealand, and we're known for a lot of the work that we've done with statutory planning and building teams, so helping them digitally transform the way that they are processing development applications and certifications and inspections, etc. And we also are now moving very strategically into the strategic planning side of things. We're working with the South Australian state government at the moment to actually help them roll out one rule book for the entire state, so 70 councils under one rule book, and so that's their design plan code. And then obviously in the information management space, it's a consulting based approach. They're helping people in councils actually manage their records appropriately and do it in a way that helps their teams actually get the job done, as well as conform to compliance. And then obviously community engagement for us is we have a solution around formal submission management, and we also have websites and meeting management solutions in that space as well. But the solution we'll be talking about today is very much, we call it Consult 24, and it is our formal submission management solution. And I might just throw to Greg to give a bit of an overview of that solution and how it came to be, because it's a really story.
Yeah, so it is a good story. So we obviously work a lot with local government, and about 2 or 3 of our councils approached us and said that we don't have any tools to help us with submission management. So they're a formal part of how we engage with our community. And the focus was around staff. As staff, they end up with this volume of information and submitters, and they were using spreadsheets or Excel, home-written Excel databases to try and manage that. And so there was that need going, is there a tool? Can you help us? Can you put together a tool for us that can help us? And so I guess that's where we came from. And over time, we recognize opportunity as well with that to say, but what about the public side of that, catching submissions through the web? And then obviously taking that agile approach, saying, well, let's get a tool up and running, get you going, and then every 6 months we'll add functionality through the funnel. So that's kind of how it came to be, and it's been an awesome journey working with our clients on improving the tool and growing the tool and seeing the changes in that space over the last few years.
Really, I wanted to, I guess, explain where our solution would fit in the public participation spectrum. So should we transition to that bit now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so this is obviously the IAP2 spectrum of public participation. So anyone who's in the community engagement space or the industry would know this one. So we've just made a slight adaptation. We added an extra bit at the end. But in terms of where our solution, our submission management solution fits, it's very much in the consult space. As Greg mentioned, it's designed to actually assist not only the staff within councils to manage the submissions, but also to provide a front end through which the community can submit formal consultation. Obviously, as well, that it does also come into the collaborate space around producing reports and actually getting to the outcome that the consultation is actually designed to try and get to. So I guess the beauty of being able to develop a solution in partnership with council clients is that we get to understand what outcomes they are actually trying to achieve through a consultation process, and then support them with the tool to enable that process to be effortless for not only the citizen, but also the staff that are managing that process. We're very interested in lowering the stress levels of people within council so they can do a better job every day. And then we added the little act piece here. And this is, I guess, once you've gone through a consultation process, usually it's to deliver on a project. It's to make a change of some sort in the community, or it's to communicate a change to the community. So being software solution providers and consulting service providers, we can play in that space as well. And whenever we're engaging with our clients in that context, this is the methodology we use. So our first and foremost is to challenge, to get all of the relevant stakeholders, internal, external, around the room that's relevant to that project. Challenge the status quo, challenge the thinking, because change comes through challenging our existing mindsets, and then get the alignment that's required before we design. That's always the case for us. We're always looking challenge, align, design first in any project before we then get into executing. And then obviously the evaluation piece is the crucial piece, and that, as you can see, just goes round and round and round. So that's kind of the approach that we take when we're engaging with our clients in this space too.
Yeah, no, could I add to that? So what we find as well is that often councils get an approval on an annual plan or a multi-year plan, and then on a project by project basis, this is where that really comes into play. Is where we find if we go back on a project, so we might have got approval for 50 projects, but when we come to the town centre streetscape project, going back through discovery and community engagement again with maybe the business owners in that area and the community that really live and work in there around our issues and options, that's where we find there's a lot of value in doing that up front in the initiation phase. And also then obviously the submission software like Consult helping us again collate and analyze that information. Thanks.
That's a really good point, Greg. I know, especially in New Zealand, where we'll be doing the EngageTech Spectrum later this month. The EngageTech Forum later this month. They do their annual plans, the long-term plans. So being able to go back and discover what it is that the stakeholders have said in those previous processes means that you're actually showing the community that you've listened to them, and you're able to be responsive and take into account some of those issues that are being raised in those earlier processes. And I think that just continues to kind of deepen the engagement that you're having with the community and results in better outcomes. Fiona, I know you were talking about, actions and outcomes for the community. And I think that's a really critical point with engagement and having these tools available for us. Fiona, I'll also just raise a point that you highlighted, which is, the user experience for staff is so important. And I think, having these tools that facilitate that back of house, knowledge management and learning is really critical, as well as having tools to enable that user experience online for our participants as well in these engagement processes. I'm glad you raised that. So I'm going to let you guys continue.
So I think we're going to now shift into a demonstration of the solution. So I'll hand over to Greg.
Excellent.
And I'll just change over to sharing my screen. Thank you. So what we're looking at is we've gone across to our submission portal from the front end for the members of the public. And this could be a landing page where your community come to look at all open and past engagement processes or consultation processes. So there's, at the moment on this example, there's we're doing a formal engagement with our community around regional fuel tax and land transport planning. And there's an overview of a previous engagement process. So when the public come to make a submission or give us feedback, they can register and log in. In other words, they can create a profile, and that is awesome because they know about their engagement with us and have a record of that, as well as helps us interact better with them. Okay, but they don't have to do that. And so when they come to make a submission, this is an example of an online form that we've set up, so we can ask people the typical questions. I'm going to fill this out. I'd like to get an email. Okay, and then we might ask some demographic questions. Again, we do or don't have to. So we could ask a demographic question. We could ask some ethnicity questions. If we choose, we can ask these other questions. But what's really important for us is that I'll come back to this property area. You'll see how that works. And then we've got the ability to set up all sorts of questions. So we've got our regional fuel tax. Do you support or don't support it? Let's say I supported it, but in here I'm going to write, I do not. So in saying that, you'll see later on that there's some analytics that we have around using Microsoft's artificial intelligence. And so I've written a negative statement here on purpose. I'll show you how that looks for us later on when we do some analytics. And then we can have, this is a, sort of a multi-choice type matrix we've got. Then it can have other questions. But what is important is I've got down here, I might have some answers here. And then I've got my other comments, and then I can submit my submission. But what I've done is that we can also have questions. For example, if I set them in Mount Albert or Mount Eden area in Auckland, I can say, well, because you've chosen that geography or that community of interest, I'm going to add additional questions. So I'm going to say in that area, we're going to do the following. We're going to put in a public cycleway or walkway, for example. And then I can say yes or no. And if someone goes yes, I can then bring in a follow-up question and say, well, if you do, have a look at the options and then pick your preferred option. Or they could have gone no, and then it doesn't ask you those questions. So what that demonstrated is that we can link questions both to geography. So we can say, if you're in this community, ask these questions, and you're in this community, ask these questions. And we can also have workflow questions. If you ask this question, and if they choose yes, ask this. If they choose no, ask that. So it gives us a lot of flexibility around how we ask and engage. And each of these forms, you'll see this can look like a council website, but each form has a template applied to it, a style template. And so it could look like this website, it could look like another agency website, it could look like a project website. So each engagement process can be skinned either using a default council template, so we look like the council website, or a project specific. When the member of the public's happy with their submission, they can submit that. So that'll send it in to us. So that's effectively like posting in or emailing in your submission. The beauty of having done that online is that what we've done is we've improved the ability for council to analyse that data, because we've filled it out online. Council can immediately start looking at our information. So there's a lot of good reasons about why we might ask people to make online submissions, but just one of them would be that ability for councils to look at our information quickly. Right, and so as a submitter, I'll get a copy of that submission both in email, and I'll get it in on-screen download of what I had to say. So I can quite quickly have a look, make sure that yes, that was my submission, but at the same time, I would have got an email to my email address with a copy of that, because I provided my email address. So from the public perspective, it's really quick for them to make a submission. And I'll just re-show you on that. If you were in the mode of if you change your screen mode to look like a mobile device. Where's that setting to go to a mobile device? I guess what I'm trying to say is it's responsive. So if we made this smaller, you'll see that the form is responsive in its nature, and so it'll change its behavior fully for that. So if someone's on their phone, they can quickly run through and make that submission for us. So it's very responsive, and will size and scale and change its behavior for phone-based submissions. So that's really a quick way to do that. And we have a lot of flexibility, like I said, about setting that up. So once somebody's made a submission, the focus is on, remember I said in the beginning, I said councils came to us saying we need a tool to actually manage submissions, formal submissions around long-term plans and annual plans and bylaws and that sort of thing. And so really there's the office module, staff module was a big focus around how we set that up. And so we can make that submission, they can get it into us online, but that's probably at the moment, most councils, that's about 50 or 60% of their submissions will come in online. The rest come in still through email, paper, etc. So we need to be able to collate all of that information and manage it. So the Office module allows us to set up an engagement process, which is really quick and easy to do. But then we can either capture and enter those submissions. So that submission that I just made online, I can see that Greg Demo has got a submission that they've made, and I could do some things with it, but I can really quickly work through that submission and have a look at their, they didn't give us an address, but if we did have an address, they could put in, there would have been that address come through, but remember online I chose not to, and they could have filled out that information. There's the demographic question they answered. So we can work our way through and slowly go through and have a look at that submission that they've made. When we've accepted that submission into our system, it will take the original document, it will stamp it now with the submitter number so that we can see that submitter for, and so it collects that information, can push that original submission into our EDRMS to store it where it should be in terms of the council. And then we can go through and look at each of the questions that Greg answered and moderate those questions. So we can see he's said support and he's written what he supported, his original submission, and I can save that. I could edit it. So if there was bad language or something in there, we could take that out. So I could work my way through each of the submission points made by Greg and go, okay, I'm going to accept that point in. I could split the point and say this is about 3 different things. So I'm going to take that original submission point and code it as a word councils will use, and they'll put it against various topics. But I'm going to quickly just automatically process that submission, so I don't have to go through bit by bit. I can just automatically process that submission. So as I work through, that brings my submissions in, makes them really easy to get in. So I can go through and now start working with my submitters and see that, yeah, okay, I've got my 3 submitters in or 4 submitters in now. I can go have a look at that submitter. I can have a look at the points they've made. I can have a look at the documents they've sent in. They might have sent an attachment. I can make notes about that submitter. I can go and work on those points, provide council staff. So there's quite a lot I can do working with my submitters, entering them. I can enter my paper submitters, my email submitters, etc. And what we probably would do then is we'll often acknowledge our submitters through a formalized letter. So we'll say to them, here's an acknowledgement letter, thank you. We can have various types of letters. Later on, we could have our hearing letter. So letters sounds like a simple thing, but it takes a lot of administrative burden off of our council staff. They spend a lot of time managing communication with submitters, and so this really does help them. So they can set up multiple templates. They might have an email letter template, a postal letter template, and they can say, using various filters, grab those submitters and say, okay, well, for all of these guys, or for some of them, I'm going to just use this demo guy. We're going to, oopsie, try and catch myself. We're going to send them their letter as a PDF, and we'll email them that letter. So that will email out to that submitter using that letter template that we've set in the system, a letter with our merge fields completed. of their name and whatever information was said. It'll give me, for my records, again, a copy of that letter, but with a date stamp as well around when that letter was sent into who. So I can see for my records that that was sent by email at a particular timestamp. So we've got a really good record of that. It also keeps that record in the database, but we have this in a letter. Those letters, again, if you've got integration with EDRMS systems or other corporate systems, that letter would have made its way through to that system if we wanted to. And I'll quickly go to my Gmail, and I should have that letter sitting in here. There's my consultation submitted, and there's my letter coming through. There's my draft regional letter, and attached, please confirm, and there's the letter. So there's the letter sent to that submitter using my merge fields, and then whatever we set. So dear Greg, and that's Greg's address. Okay, so that's the letter gone through from it. What we do have is that, let's get rid of my pop-up. Okay, what it will mean though is that if we relook at that list of all submitters, we will also see amongst in other places, we can see that Greg received that letter at that timestamp. They've had it once, and according to the mail server that went. There's associated reports for managing that. So that's an example of managing letters. The other thing that we ask the submitter, if we're doing hearings, we might have had a hearing letter, but how did submitters get into hearings? So hearings are set up, when we set up our process, we will say what hearings we're having, if our engagement process is going to have hearings. And we can say, if they're very formal, we can set a duration and a time. We can either then manually go and say, okay, well, all these submitters wanted to be heard, and we will manage and schedule these submitters into our hearing. So here's a hearing, and we can say, all right, well, these submitters want to be heard, and we'll just quickly drag them over and schedule them in and say, that's great, that's the hearing times that I'm putting them in, and I can extend this person's time if I wanted. So that's one option, is to do that, and we can see those hearings. I don't know how to get rid of that.
Greg, I might interrupt you just briefly there, and just let all the Australians who are listening know that in New Zealand, when somebody makes a submission to a local government process, a statutory process, so on their long-term plans and their annual plans, I believe it's both of those processes, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, that they can also ask to be heard, and being heard means you get to actually present your submissions to the council or a committee nominated by them, I believe. Consider the issues that are being raised by the community in that submissions process. Yeah,
so it allows you to speak to what you've said. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's exactly that. So you can speak to what you've said to add weight to what you're trying to tell the community. Exactly that. So the other option, and you can just imagine that's quite a burdensome process. If you've got 500 people wanting to be heard, you've got to now manage that scheduling, and there's a lot of communication and setup that goes with that. It's really difficult. So one of the great things is that they can also allow people to self-schedule. So we can say, well, during a certain time slot, we'll give people the opportunity, first in, first serve, and we can send them out an email, and they'll get a link to a little self-scheduler, and it will say, cool, all right, so this hearing, these are the available time slots, and you can pick your time slot and save that, and you'll self-schedule yourself. So it gives when you move that across to your community to let them self-schedule, the first thing is they can see what's available. They've picked a time that's convenient to them, so you're empowering them more because they feel like, you've not just told them. And lastly, it's taken quite a lot of work off of us as well as council staff, because we haven't had to contact those people and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of benefit in doing that. And then as they do that, obviously we can then see how they're scheduled. And going with that, obviously there's associated reports about those sorts of things. So quite a lot of effort in that. And then we can use hearing letters again to confirm those hearings, and the merge fields understand hearings. So that's quite a big piece of work. The next thing that is of interest around moving through is looking at our analytics and reporting. So those submitters that have been making submissions, you'd have seen, remember our online form asked some quite easy to analyze questions. So it asked, which of these, so they were multi-choice radio buttons. Those are really good questions and quick questions to get statistics off of. And then it'll also ask some word-based questions, where you could write something. And those are often harder to get analytics off of because you've got to read what someone said to interpret that. So there's two ways we can do that. So the one is we can get our statistical report, and that we can say, well, for all of our questions, using some sort of chart type in a color scheme, send us a report. And so that'll generate for us a Word file, which will have for each of the questions we asked, how many people are in each bucket or support oppose, or based on these are the questions we asked. So it'll give us a little chart, and then we'll go through and do the next one. So that was our next one was that multi-choice. So there were all those projects we were asking questions about. And again, we'll get the stats around what people have said, and then a little chart for each of those. So that's a statistical report in the nature of the yes, no type questions. And we can also get another report out, which is, well, what did Greg say, and what did Amelia say, and what did Fiona say? So this type of report will typically then send off to an Excel spreadsheet, because that allows us as council staff to do our own analytics on that, at working with those answers. So we can then take that spreadsheet and say, let me just do that and do. So that means that we can go across and look at each of the questions we asked, and you'll see that in here. Here are our questions, and we said this one was the comment question, this one was whichever question. And as we move through those, we can see the answers, and we could then filter and give me all the people who said that's less important or more important. So pushing that out gives us tools as council to work with that data. And the last way is, one of the last ways we can do is, we can use that artificial intelligence that I was telling you about. So Microsoft's have an AR service that will analyze text. So you can see these people have written comments in here, and I can say, right, well, for all of these, analyze both the sentiment and extract some key phrases. So what that'll do for us, sorry, just on the screen there. Just move the other way. Is refresh that. So once I've analyzed, once I've analyzed the key phrase and the sentiment, it'll give in here, it'll give me a percentage of positive or negative, so I can actually see whether that's the textual based feedback we're getting is positive or negative, and I can extract key phrases. I can export that out to an Excel spreadsheet and go from there. So that'll give me a quick way of analyzing that data, and then using my key phrases, I can again recode those submissions we can use reporting tags and that sort of thing. The other types of reports we have are additional stats around age, ethnicity, gender, what communities that people belong to, what the source of submission was. So we've got quite a lot of stats around that side of things. And then we've got all of our reports around your answers by submitter, your answers by topic, your answers by area. So there's a lot of ability to extract and analyze data, and all of our reports, all the reporting data, you get the choice to include various fields of information, and you get the choice to export that out to various formats. So depending what your intent is, you could either take something to Excel because you want to work with it more, you could take it to PDF because you want to produce that, you could take it to Word. And then probably the last couple of things I'd just like to mention while we're there is, often we'll get submissions that have come from another source. So we've got this draft regional fuel tax. We've set it up and we've got our questions and answers. So we set all of that up. But either some community group went and gathered their own submissions through whatever it might have been, SurveyMonkey, or it might be whatever it is, doesn't matter. And they've probably asked the same questions. So they've asked those questions, but they've come to us at another source. So what we have is we have a tool that goes with the software, which lets you say, all right, well, this is the draft regional plan. Where's the sample file from this other system? And then you just map the questions and answers. So you say, well, from their system, their document that you've received, maybe it's a spreadsheet, first name is first name, last name is surname, and you map the questions and answers. Once you've mapped that, it's going to ask me if I want to say, we can then go through and just run the import, and that'll import, and we can set that up as a process. So we can say every single day, or just look at a folder and just every 10 minutes look at that folder, and as new submissions land there, it'll just consume them. Or we could do it a one-off. We've got a single file and we just import it all. So we can pull them in from another system, and the benefit of doing that is obviously then we've got the ability now to send our letters to those people. We've got the ability to do all of our reporting. We've got all those submitters in one place. In future, when we come to do another process of a similar type, we can contact those submitters and let them know about the upcoming process, that sort of thing. So it's a really good way to do that. And so that little tool actually talks through the API of the software. So the software has a portal for other software to talk to it. And that could be the document management system of a council, it could be other systems within council. For example, we also geocode submitters when they have an address. So a submitter will have a lat long if they provide an address, and that might be shared with your GIS guys, for example, who want to map where people have thought certain things. The system does provide its own map for that, but you might do that through GIS. The last thing is, if we want to allow the public to search submissions that have been provided, we can enable that search for a process for a period of time, and we can provide summary reports, or we can provide access to the original submissions. So in New Zealand, the law here says that for certain process types like district plan or unitary plan submissions, you have to publish the summary of submissions and the original submission documents. So we can do that in a way where we don't expose these submitter details. This paper submitter at that address doesn't get Google indexed because this is a database driven one. So that's really important. And linked with that is obviously the security around the software. So I think, Amelia, I want to probably stop there because of time, and then just answer your questions that you have.
That was very comprehensive, Greg. Thank you. And it looks like an excellent system. You've thought through, the process from the local government in New Zealand perspective, like very, very well. I can see that with the hearings, the management of submissions, the integration into the records management system, the GIS systems as well. Really like the Microsoft analysis of the free text and the automation of bringing in the submissions that aren't being received through your system, because that's, I'm actually dealing with that with about 100 email submissions that have come in, some in handwritten text and some in typed up text for another local government in Australia at the moment, and that's been a bit of a challenge for all of us. So yeah, fantastic comprehensive solution. I'm really impressed. And just for everybody who's listening, if I was to place this on the EngageTech Spectrum, it's firmly in the consult section of the spectrum, but it is providing quite a comprehensive solution for submission management, and also it covers off on some of those layers on the bottom of the EngageTech Spectrum where you're analysing the submissions, so doing your issues tracking and reporting to your project teams as well. And it looks to me like it might also facilitate some of the ongoing relationship management by using those submissions as a reference point and tracking the communications with those stakeholders too, guys. Does that sound where you guys would place it on the spectrum?
Yeah, definitely. And exactly that. We want to keep building on that. So we've engaged in the past, keep engaging with you, and then come back per project. But yeah, it definitely sits well in those formal spaces.
So I will ask a little bit more about integration, because you've covered off on reporting, you've covered it off on where it fits on the spectrum, and integration in other products for the client. But often clients want to use different tools to crowdsource or maybe collaborate with stakeholders during an engagement process. How would your product work with some other tools like that, for example?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it depends on the tool. So, I mean, you could link, the process is open, and actually also there's a bunch of web services. So depending on how you wanted to integrate, you could either from those other platforms reference back to when people want to now formally answer, they come straight into, because you can also embed our forms with no style into other platforms. So you can actually embed that when you get down to the formal question. And lastly, you could actually, because there's an API, you could directly write into from the other systems if you allowed it. So there's quite a lot of ways. Obviously, when you're getting random feedback, which then sometimes there's slight effort on councils to collect that random feedback. Like it might come through sporadic channels, but when it's still through a managed way, another system, because of the nature of how we've configured or set up the software, you can integrate in quite a lot of different ways. So you kind of need to explore each process. But I guess the main thing is be intentional.
Yeah, no, definitely advocating for that. So it sounds like possibly through your API, embedding of this form-based tool into those other products as well might be another option for people there. You mentioned at the start, so I just want to clarify this. At the start, you talked about skinning the site and making it look like the council's website as an example. Can you know, if a client wanted to set up a project website for their project and integrate this into their project, it would look like the council's website. And is there any tailoring of the URL or anything like that that people should know about as well?
So what they can do is they can make a template, which could be a project specific or it could be whatever. So they can go make, and they obviously have to have someone who knows a little bit, but they can create and load templates. They've got full flexibility to create as many templates as they like, and then apply those templates to the engagement. So that means I can give the engagement, if I take that one that we were doing and I just load a different template, immediately the process takes on a different look and feel. So that's where that, oh, sorry, that was the wrong screen. That's where the project specific can come in. So you can go from looking like a council website, that's not the most beautiful, to a different part of council or specific project. So you can very quickly change the look and feel. You can go from, it's total change. So you've got a lot of flexibility from no skinning as you're embedding through to skinning per project or council default. Yeah,
and it sounds like you can also embed as an alternative as well.
Yeah, well,
if
exactly.
They wanted to just embed it into their own page. Great.
Yep.
So I noticed the Auckland Council logo. Let's talk about security, because obviously I've been working pretty closely with them. We've got the EngageTech Forum coming up, which you guys will be at. I know they have like an impact assessment process that they go through with products that they bring on for community and stakeholder engagement. What we try to do with these videos is prepare engagement professionals to be able to have conversations with their CIO and their CTO and their privacy officers about security, particularly data security. Are there a couple of sort of highline points that you would share with those kinds of people in a government organisation about the way you guys deal with data and security?
Yeah, so obviously there's always the decision around, do we use software as a service or do we host it ourselves? So that's kind of a big one. And either model works with us. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when, regardless of those two, our software, we do our own penetration testing is the technical term for it. So we will check our software each year, because every year security changes. And so once a year we'll do our own testing. But a lot of our councils like Auckland, they'll do their own testing as well. So we get quite a lot of comfort from the fact that the software's gone through our penetration testing, and it goes through a couple of the large councils do that annually as part of their business practice. And so they'll do that. And if there's anything exposed, they'll provide that back to us and we'll address it. So like I said, you could pass a penetration test one year and next year it's changed because of web security. So that's a really important point, that we keep our eye on that. Web security is really important. And then the data obviously is linked to that. If you're passing your penetration test, your data is probably quite secure. And then within that, though, if a council's hosting it, obviously that responsibility around data is theirs in terms of backup and looking after it. But with our software as a service, we look after that. We're a Microsoft Azure partner, and everything's hosted within Azure, and we use all the benefits of the Azure data replication and backup, which is really awesome for us. So it gives us a really robust service that we can offer.
Yeah, excellent. Great. Thank you. That was a really comprehensive demo, guys. I really appreciate you both joining me today. I think we've covered off on as much as most people would want to ask about your product at the start of this process. So hopefully if you've got any more questions and you're in Auckland, you'll come and join us at the EngageTech Forum on the 15th of May 2019. I'm really looking forward to meeting both of you guys in person, Fiona and Greg. Thanks again for joining us. And just finally, maybe as you say goodbye, you could just let people know how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to put our details up on the screen. There we go. So there's Greg's details there, but we're really excited to be involved with the EngageTech Forum in Auckland. So both Greg and I will be there, and just really very excited to learn even more about what everyone's doing in this space within Auckland. And I understand there's going to be a couple of other local government invitees as well. So one of our core values is curiosity. So we always come in curious to learn and understand, because as far as local government is concerned, everyone delivers the same or similar services, but no two local governments are the same. So it's always a joy to meet people, to build relationships, to make connections, and to learn from each other. That's one of the best things about working with local government, is the sharing and the learning, so that it benefits each other and the communities that we serve.
That's great. Thank you, Fiona. Did you want to add anything, Greg, before we say goodbye?
No, I'm looking forward to catching up at the EngageTech and also catching up with councils, because I think one of the things I love is catching the ideas and then us being able to take it on board and bring it through to life in products. So catching up is always good.
Great. Well, we'll have 18 councils in the room, and the 8 organisations in the Auckland Regional Council group. So I'm sure they're all going to have lots of different use cases, even just within that regional council group. We've got Auckland Transport, we've got Auckland Council, and they all use their own systems, just as an example, and as well as the 21 wards. So starting to see a lot more electoral officers supporting their elected representatives with these kinds of products as well, and they often have their own unique systems too. So if you want to see more about Redman Solutions, come along to the EngageTech Forum on the 15th of May. If you can't make it there, let me know. We run these events very regularly. My name's Amelia Loye. I'm from EngageTech. If you want to find out more about my organisation, go to engage2.com.au. Thanks very much for listening, everyone.